For the next few minutes, I will discuss how the Department of Defense keeps up with the state-of-the-art in cost and schedule management control systems. First, bear in mind that CSCSC is a criteria-based approach to contract cost and schedule control. By that I mean the Defense Department does not tell contractors how to manage, nor does it tell contractors what management systems they must use. Instead, we apply the 35 criteria in DoD Instruction 7000.2 to evaluate whether the contractor's systems are adequate. These criteria have changed hardly at all since they were first issued in 1967. The services and defense agencies publish a joint implementation guide to provide common guidance to the CSCSC review teams. Of course, management systems evolve all the time. The Performance Measurement Joint Executive Group, called the PMJEG, keeps up with these changes in several ways. Each year, the CSCSC team chiefs and review directors from all the services meet to compare issues that come up during their plant visits. Another input is the continuous dialogue between the PMJEG and industry, especially through the Management Systems Subcommittee of the National Security Industrial Association, or NSIA. Other sources of information include the workshops and symposia sponsored by the Performance Management Association, the Institute of Cost Analysis, and NSIA. The PMJEG gathers information from all these sources and considers the need for additional guidance. NSIA's Management Systems Subcommittee plays a very important role in this process. NSIA always provides comments on proposed guidance and will assign task groups to develop industry positions on the more complex issues. This industry input has proved so valuable that we have begun to work together on joint government and industry teams to solve problems. When new guidance is agreed upon, the PMJEG issues a memorandum for use by the review teams, pending incorporation in the Joint Implementation Guide. The Implementation Guide was last updated in October 1987. Since then, the PMJEG has issued 5 items of supplemental guidance. Let's review each of them briefly. The first item concerns review of a contractor's process for developing estimates of cost at completion. This issue came up because CSCSC review teams often found that the contractor estimates developed internally did not agree with the estimate reported on the cost performance report to the government. Contractor estimates are frequently sensitive, and the contractor's senior management may not wish to revise its estimate until it is clear that the contract cannot be completed at a lower estimate. In order that teams not spend excessive time on this issue, the guidance tells them to concentrate on the adequacy of the contractor's policy, procedures, and methods for estimates, and on the consistency with which estimates are developed. The contractor must be able to reconcile the reported EAC with internal EACs. Note that reconcile does not necessarily mean equal. Contractor management must decide on the estimate to be reported. The cost performance report variance analysis format should discuss the reasons for the reported EAC. If the CSCSC review team is concerned about the accuracy of the EAC and finds that the procedures are adequate, it will document the concerns and report them to the Contract Administration Office and to the procuring activity. The team will also include it in the CSCSC review report. The review will not be held up unless the contractor's procedures are found to be inadequate. The second item clears up an ambiguity on reporting subcontractor EACs on prime contractor reports when the subcontractor's cost exceeds the firm fixed price subcontract value or the ceiling when the subcontract is fixed price incentive. For the cost performance report, the data will show what the subcontract will cost the prime contractor. Subcontractor costs above the firm fixed price value or above the fixed price incentive ceiling will not be shown on the prime CPR, but will be included in Format 5 when the prime has a basis for estimating these costs. For example, when there is a CSCSC flow-down to the subcontractor. In any case where the government or the prime wants a sub's estimate at completion to be reported, the prime should negotiate with the sub. If the information is sensitive, as when a subcontractor is a competitor with the prime contractor for some programs, the EAC may be reported directly to the government. The rules for contractor cost data reporting, or CCDR, are similar. The prime's CCDR will include estimates for payments to subcontractors. Payments would be limited to the ceiling amounts unless the subcontractor submits a separate CCDR to the prime. In that case, the prime would report the cost without regard to liability limits to the government. The key point on this item is the importance of identifying which subcontracts require special visibility and clearly specifying those requirements in the contract. Item 3 clarifies the conditions that must be present to substitute a baseline review for a subsequent application review. The guidance was provided to prevent the simpler baseline review procedure becoming routinely scheduled in lieu of a SAR, whether or not it is warranted. The procuring activity will process a request to the DoD component CSCSC focal point. Acceptance depends on several factors. First, a comprehensive review was done sometime within the last year. Second, the Contract Administration Office verified that the contractor has effective internal surveillance procedures. And third, there are no outstanding significant CSCSC discrepancies. The fourth item was necessary because some contractors are changing from traditional organizations along functional lines, such as engineering and production, to multidisciplinary work teams organized around the task or the product. The inherent flexibility of the criteria approach is apparent when you consider that this major change in the way that contractors do business did not require any change to any of the 35 criteria. The supplemental guidance explains how the new organizations will look to a CSCSC review team. A few highlights are: the number of cost accounts may decrease, thereby becoming larger and longer and containing more work packages. Contractor procedures must separate level of effort and discrete work adequately to provide valid performance measurement. When multi-organizational activity is contained in a cost account, direct and indirect rates must be applied below the cost account level. Similarly, labor rate variances must be visible to the appropriate manager at the application level within the cost account. Finally, the government and the contractor should discuss CPR reporting during contract negotiations to be sure both understand how CPR formats containing contractor organization data are prepared. The last item represents considerable effort by government and industry to strike a balance between effective baseline control on the one hand and reasonable flexibility on the other. The need for this item was recognized at a joint government-industry conference sponsored by the Air Force Space Systems Division. Internal replanning refers to in-scope changes to future budgets, those budgets for any accounting period beyond the current accounting period. Internal replanning reflects the contractor's revised internal program plan and is done within the contractor's authority, with one exception, which I will explain. Generally, the guidance has been relaxed, but proper control is emphasized so that replanning does not become an alternative to good planning from the beginning of the contract. Controls are required to document baseline changes and to minimize changes for work to be performed within the next 30 days. All baseline changes that affect schedules, that is, the time phasing of the performance measurement baseline, must be reported to the government in Format 5 so that the customer will understand what is happening. When changes must be made to work in process, the contractor must document the changes and make them in a way that does not distort data. Prior government approval is required only when changes will cause the contractor to miss a contractually required milestone. Prior approval is needed to be sure that contractual requirements, for example, schedule incentives, are preserved and the changes are made for performance measurement purposes only. In summary, the criteria have remained virtually unchanged for over 20 years. The Joint Implementation Guide is updated every few years, and changes in guidance between updates to the Implementation Guide are made by the PIMJEG through supplemental guidance.